What's up, my Vita Bros? Being Maine-iac here with another power rankings. Actually, probably our final one before the playoffs. Not probably. There's no probably about it. We're not going to do how we usually do by flipping through the teams and going one by one. We'll go one by one, but I just want to start out with my Super Bowl prediction matchup. Patriots at hosting the Rams or whoever AFC hosts the NFC. I'm not sure what it is this year. We got some movers this week, but not a lot, so we'll go over quickly. Browns, I have them at 32nd, no wins. 31, Colts, offensive issues just abroad. Sheard having a very underrated season, though. Giants, 30. They're hired a new GM, that's good. Texans, 29. Once Deshaun Watson gets back next year, this team will be a different monster, especially with J.J. Watt merciless. Injuries kind of destroyed their season, though. And you have the Jets at number 28 dropping a spot. Without McCown, I thought they'd struggle a lot more, but they didn't really, so I'm pretty impressed by that. And you have the Bucks at number 27 dropping a spot. Jameis Winston looks like he needs to control his frustrations, I should say. And that goes for any quarterback. You don't want to act like that on the sideline. It doesn't look good. Then Bears 26, they move up 2 spots. Mitch Trubisky's looking like an improvement. And out of all the teams so far, Howard's probably the best running back. Their defense is really solid, so I didn't want to really move them down. And they haven't suffered as many injuries as the Bucks and stuff, but they're still kind of disappointing. Then the Cardinals, coaching issues. Is Arians gonna walk away or not? I don't know. Injuries have plagued their season. No Carson Palmer, no David Johnson, but they have Larry Fitzgerald. He's played great. Their overall season hasn't been completely abysmal, but considering the talent they still have on defense, they've been playing like one of the worst teams in the league, and it's just embarrassing. The Raiders at 24 moving down 1. This team's going nowhere. It probably needs a head coaching change. I'd say an offensive coordinator change, and just somebody stricter to get this team in line, because it looks like a bunch of mercenaries on a field, kind of like the Jaguars did last year. But the Jaguars became a brotherhood this year, and the Raiders are still a group of mercenaries. And you have the Packers dropping 4 spots. All the injuries that they suffered on defense. They just played terrible without Rodgers. Hundley, he's not going to get it done. I don't think he's a capable backup as of yet, but he should improve in a year or two. You have Dolphins. Their season was doomed. They dropped 2 spots at number 22. Their season was basically doomed since Tannehill went down, and they showed they had no confidence in Matt Moore as a backup or a capable fill-in. Signing Jay Cutler off the street to save their season sounded to some like a good idea, but it was too desperate, and their team played like it. Trading away Ajayi in the middle of the season just to try to get some extra motivation was a temporary band-aid. Didn't work out too well at the end of the year. The Broncos at 21. Their defense is stepping up, which it needs to. Their offense, still no quarterback, so there's no way they crack top 20. The Bengals, they move up 2 spots to number 20. Then AJ Green, Andy Dalton, still a lethal connection. Their major issues this season was Tyler Eifert getting hurt again. Ross being hurt a lot. Mixon going down. Hill going down. Their offense has been banged up quite a bit. Their losses on the offensive line during the offseason didn't help any. This team has a very disappointing season, but they had some good wins and some tough losses. Then you have the 49ers. They gained 5 spots to number 19. There is no question about it. 4-win streak after trading for Garoppolo and actually starting him. Just imagine what this team could have been if they would have had Garoppolo at the beginning of the season. If they would have traded that number 2 overall pick and maybe a couple others to the Patriots instead of to the Bears. How different the season would be for them. I think they'd definitely be a playoff team. They're playing like one. Garoppolo's making smart decisions. Tough win over the playoff-bound Jaguars. Next year's looking really bright. I think next year they might be a top 10 team, depending on who they draft and how they develop. They have the Titans, probably the most disappointing current playoff team in the seedings, number 18. They stay still. As much as their season has been disappointing, all the people below them have been even more so. So it's not like I can drop them. But even the ones above them have more promise, so it's difficult there. So they're kind of middled in the middle of the pack. You have the Cowboys at number 17, dropping 4 spots. Dak Prescott's playing like absolute shit. I don't mean to say it like that, but he is. I think he'll improve. It's I wouldn't call it a sophomore slump. I think it's more of a difficult transition into more of a leadership role, whereas last year not too much was expected of him when he got there, but now this year he had all the weight on his shoulders. He'll step up next year. Ezekiel Elliott will be back for the full year. Sean Lee, maybe he'll stay healthy next year. That injury was a big blow to them too. The injury to Tyron Smith was a big injury. Maybe they draft a more capable backup this year. Who knows? Their draft strategy with Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett's pretty unpredictable. They also need a new wide receiver number 1 or a better wide receiver 2 if they keep Des Bryant. Then you have the Redskins moving up 1 spot. Kirk Cousins might be his last game this week in a Washington uniform, but they've done some things. Disappointing into the season, but better than I expected. Then you have the Bills currently out of the playoffs. Need some help. They could get in. 15. They move up 1 spot. Not too much to say about them. Tyrod's played well. It's hard to imagine where this team would be if they didn't bench Tyrod for that one game against Los Angeles. If they beat Los Angeles, there'd really be no question about them being in, because all they'd have to do is beat the Dolphins and they'd be in. But due to that one benching, it could possibly end up costing them a playoff spot. So, in retrospect, that decision was about as boneheaded as it seemed when it happened. At number 14, you have the Lions, who were knocked out of the playoffs, or playoff contention last week. The offense, I love the offense. Or at least I like the wide receiver aspect of it. Ebron's been stepping up, so congrats to him. They dropped 3 spots, though, where they got knocked out of playoff contention. Their defense not playing up to snuff quite a bit. I think they need a new coaching change. I don't think they need too much player change, but a coaching change could boost them a little bit, at least in the right direction. And then you have 13 at the Seahawks, gaining 1 spot after a good win against the Cowboys to keep their playoff hopes alive. The amount of offensive yardage they had, though, was completely abysmal. So they're teetering on the edge, and it's hard to imagine Legion of Boom being together for too much longer, maybe another year or two. If that, come get me, Garrett. Number 12, you have the Falcons dropping 3 spots after a tough loss, needing a win against Carolina to keep their playoff hopes. So actually, a win against Carolina this week in Week 17 would guarantee them a playoff spot. Wild card number 6, and they'd face the Rams most likely, or the Saints in the playoffs. Not a matchup they'll necessarily be a huge disadvantage at. A big one, maybe, not a huge one. I don't think their offense is consistent enough to win this week, and I think with the Seahawks matchup against the Cardinals, it could cost the Falcons a playoff spot. Biggest issue for this team, consistency on both the offensive and defensive side, and biggest weakness is definitely going to be the offensive coordinator. It's a tough transition. They performed admirably, though, after losing the Super Bowl. I don't really want to call it a Super Bowl hangover. I think they played better than that. Then you have at 11, you have the Chargers gaining a spot. They had a tough one against the Jets. Their run defense looks so porous. They have a tough track to the playoffs as well, but they can make it. I think they might make it. It's tough. They're honestly probably one of the better teams in the league, but if you look back at the beginning of the season, icing the kicker from Denver in Week 1 to make that miss, and then their kicker missing another field goal in Week 2 to cost them the game, those 2 wins right there would have this team in the playoffs, probably almost guaranteed a spot right now. But just those couple of kicks ended up costing them and possibly a postseason spot's tough. Not too much I'd change about this team. First year head coach performed pretty well. Phillip Rivers. They definitely probably need I don't want to say move on from Antonio Gates, but they need another tight end, not just Hunter Henry. He's good, but not that good. They need to shore up the run defense for sure. And then at number 10, you have the Chiefs moving up 2 spots. Winning the AFC West wasn't necessarily an easy thing to do for them. They had that 5-0 start. They bounced back a little bit. Their offense is looking solid. Alex Smith is limiting his mistakes he struggled with in the middle of the season. Kareem Hunt's getting back on pace, and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are looking dangerous. But to me, the weakest part of this team, and I never thought I'd say this in the last couple of years, is the defense, which at number 9, the Ravens, moving up a spot, don't really struggle. They have one of the league's best defenses, definitely one of the most underrated defenses, I think. I think they can go up there and compete with Minnesota, for sure, at least defensively. Offensively, Joe Flacco's been more consistent. Alex Collins has been playing well, although he does have his struggles, which could hurt them. To me, the most dangerous part here is their wide receiver core. Watson at tight end, solid, I think. Mike Wallace is okay, but it's kind of a week-to-week basis. The wide receivers sometimes show up, sometimes not. And heading into the playoffs, which with a win, they will not get locked into the playoffs. We'll see. They're most likely going to be playing the Chiefs, so that's going to be a very good defensive matchup right there. The Ravens' defense, although they lost the second cornerback again last week. You have the Jags at number 8, lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Not going to impede their path to the playoffs much. They're still a 3 seed in the AFC. They're guaranteed that spot. I predict they lose this week, though. I don't think they'll try too much. They might, just to try to get Bill Bortles some more confidence and improve their overall record. Other than that, not much else I can say. Just, I don't know how they lost to the Niners. I never thought that would happen. Then you have the Saints gaining a spot just for the virtue of they won, Jags lost, Saints played well. Best running back duo in the league in Kamara and Ingram. Probably sweeping the Rookie of the Year. A very underrated storyline. Probably they're actually going to sweep Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. Kamara. Although I think Hunt's still an option for Rookie of the Year, but his struggles will probably lose him the award. Kamara and Lattimore on defense. Lattimore, crazy pickup in the draft. He slid just enough to probably land at the perfect spot for him. An underrated pickup in Ramsick, the number 32 overall pick that they got from the Patriots for Cooks. Although people would say they should have kept Cooks, work out a deal, stuff like that. They knew, kind of like the Patriots Garoppolo trade, they knew a deal wasn't going to get done, so they nixed the problem before it was a problem kind of thing. And they got a solid tackle out of it. He's played really well for a rookie. And then you have the top 6. Controversial decisions, probably. At number 6, you have the Philadelphia Eagles. Foles is starting to show his cracks a little bit. He might be able to hold up through the playoffs, but it's going to take 100%, 110% effort from everybody else on the team. Ajayi, Clement, Blunt, they're going to have to work their ass off. And the weakest point here to me is not the wide receivers necessarily, but the wide receiver quarterback connection. They don't have that chemistry necessarily with Foles that they had with Wentz. So if that might improve. If not, it's going to cost them probably a one and done. Then you have the Panthers at number 5. Good team, good quarterback. Got lucky against the Bucks, but sometimes getting lucky is what you need. Good solid team. Possible 2 seed if things swing the right way this week. And with the Rams sitting Goff, Gurley, and Donald, if they can beat the Falcons and the Saints lose, I could see the Panthers definitely grabbing at least a 3 seed, hosting a playoff game. That would be dangerous for sure. Then at number 4, you have the Steelers gaining 2 spots. I think originally I thought the Brown injury would have more of an impact, so I do apologize for dropping them more than I probably should. And it's just that kind of thing. Le'Veon Bell's playing well. Ben's playing well. They face the Browns this week. Will they put in effort? Who knows? They might try to rest some starters or at least the more banged up ones, for a couple of weeks. Where can you realistically say, oh, I believe the Jets are going to beat the Patriots? I'm not saying they throw in the towel this week. I'm saying they rest some people that are feeling a little banged up, get them ready for the playoff. Because it's more important to be healthy than it is to have home field advantage, in my opinion. Also, the James Harrison move. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. And yeah, the Vikings staying steady. Casey Keenum, playing a really great season, very underrated season. I like the duo of Murray and McKinnon, although I would like the duo of Cook and McKinnon and Murray a little more, or trio, I should say. Wide receivers, Thielen, one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league at the beginning of the year, but he's really showed his worth. Defense playing extremely well. Xavier Rhodes, probably capable of going one-on-one with any wide receiver in the league. And then at number 2, you have the Rams dropping a spot. Nothing too much. Just a fact. They're going into week 17. They're resting their starters. That's a big part of it right there. They're getting ready for the playoffs since they know they won't have a bye week. So, due to them resting people, going to drop them just a little bit. And you have the Patriots back at number 1 gaining a spot. They made a late addition of James Harrison after he was cut by the Steelers. A lot of people say it was for intel. I don't believe that whatsoever. I believe it's a typical Belichick move. They have a team need. They're going to fill it with the best possible player available. They did release Trevor Riley in the process, who was, to me, a promising linebacker. But that gives them a linebacking core of Van Noy when he's healthy, Marquise Flowers, who's really showed up, maybe James Harrison. I think it provides better capabilities of at least run defense and better pass rush, which was their weakest point to me on the team. I think it solidifies some things. Anyway, guys, it's going to be a hyped-ass week. See who gets in the playoffs. Wild card next weekend. It's going to be intense. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.